Hello again, and today I'm going to read the first few pages of Traces, the first book in the Ghost of Roseville series, and I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Bugs off. Meredith Reed glared at the plantation home she'd inherited from her grandmother she only vaguely recalled, and plotted its demise. A pair of ancient live oaks, the inspiration for the Twin Oaks name, guarded either side of the sprawling two-story brick dwelling, providing shade and funneling cool air through the house. Sunlight filtered through the Spanish moss draped on the massive limbs. Meredith raised one hand to shield the glare as she scanned the facade. The architect in her appreciated the symmetry of the Greek Revival style, as well as the quality workmanship of the brickwork, but neither aspect added value for the salvage companies. First, she'd dismantle it one piece at a time, removing anything of value and selling it off quickly to whomever had the money to buy it. She studied the once elegant antebellum house, its wide front steps, missing a brick here and there, its 6 elaborate Corinthian columns, and intricately carved woodwork surrounding the double doors. The property description listed 10 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms dating from the early 20th century, a gourmet kitchen, 2 parlors, an upstairs ballroom, and several outbuildings. Despite the building's grand scale, the house was too small to warrant using dynamite to implode. Damn. But she could visualize a nice hot fire licking up the exterior. Yes, a fire would serve the purpose of bringing it down. The estate lawyer, Max Chandler, who had driven her out to the 400-acre property, had barely spoken during the entire trip except to relay pertinent details of the surprise inheritance, including the fact she had also inherited her grandmother's sizable and diversified investment account. She'd have preferred to drive her own car, especially since he drove one of those redneck pickup trucks. Sitting in any vehicle, let alone with an attractive man, set her teeth on edge. Worrying about what might happen tensed every muscle in her body. He also didn't need to know how edgy being with him made her, as if her skin burned the closer he drew. But he'd insisted until she ungraciously relented. She picked her fights, and that one wasn't worth the effort. The rolling Tennessee countryside had flowed past the window, immense fields dotted with horses and cows. Green shoots poked through the tilled earth in rows, reaching for the early spring sunshine. She'd noticed her surroundings automatically, but none of the hauntingly familiar sights held her interest. Once she no longer sat in the unfamiliar truck, her tense muscles eased, and she drew a deep breath as she studied the building. Why on earth had her grandmother, whom she hadn't seen in nearly 30 years, chosen her to receive a grandiose house that stood for everything she would never have, the family she could never have? Pain combined with the deep-seated longing blossomed in her chest. With 3 front steps led up to a brick porch with its immense white columns announcing to passers-by that the building was more than a house. Unlike the small, boxy ranchers and nondescript houses they passed on the drive to the plantation, this structure cried out for a large family. Her parents had often carried her and her sister Paulette from Memphis to visit Grandma when she was a young child, back when love and laughter echoed through the many rooms. The huge yard, graced with several shade trees, the site of barbecues and softball games, with the extended family arguing over who potentially cheated, or whooping with glee when a good shot was made, now stood silent, accusing her of neglect and indifference. So be it. She stiffened her spine. She would not wallow in self-pity, nor give in to the temptation to hug her arms around her waist and cry. She squinted at the glare from the windows nestled into the brick walls, noting the ivy climbing up one front corner. Willie would want her to move on, build a new life, but she couldn't, not yet. Even after 5 years, the grief and anger stewed in her brain, sizzled in her veins, and throbbed in her heart. But soon Twin Oaks would help her to find the path to alleviate the pain. She'd finally struck on a course of action that would assuage her turmoil, thanks to the surprising inheritance. She'd bury her grief through the catharsis of a fresh beginning by returning the once beautiful but now decaying plantation to nature. Let the land heal her, as her grandmother had long ago told Meredith their Irish ancestors believed, though perhaps not in the way she meant. Thanks for stopping by, and if you'd like to find out more about what happens to Meredith and Twin Oaks, you can find Traces, The Ghost of Roseville Book 1, wherever ebooks and paperbacks are sold. Thanks for stopping by.